Good morning, Dijana here. Welcome to Mentoring for Awakening YouTube series. We're on episode 7 today, and we are going to talk about something that is a little bit deeper. I want to offer to you a little bit of I guess in some ways a trigger warning, because we are going to talk about parts of ourselves that are not necessarily seen openly to the public, even to ourselves. So I have a confession to make before I go on. I want to say to you, I myself was challenged a little bit with regards to, hang on a minute, with regards to how best to present this topic to you, because it is such a deeply intimate topic for anybody. And it's, of course, discussed primarily in one-on-one sessions with clients. Of course, for those of you that don't know, I'm a qualified spiritual transpersonal counselor, holistic counselor. So I do a lot of this work myself with clients. But in order to present it to you today in a more kind of collective, general way, whilst still sticking to the theme, has I have found that to be a little bit challenging. But my hope is that throughout this presentation, throughout this video, you're able to get something out of this conversation. So let's go ahead and talk about inner fracture, as opposed to an obvious physical fracture in some way of matter. Okay, so classically or traditionally, of course, fracture is most commonly seen or identified when there's some sort of a trauma that happens. So either it's a trauma, like I said, on the actual physical body, or it will be some sort of a trauma when something happens to us in the world, such as, you know, like a relationship breakdown, for example, a meaningful relationship breakdown. Something happens in the family, there's a death, some sort of an event like a car accident happens, or, you know, like something related to health. And so when these events happen, it is we are able to witness that there is some sort of a fracture that's going on in the world of the person that is experiencing this. What I want to talk to you about today with regards to inner fracture, that usually the trauma events that happen, the timelines that the trauma is on, so whether it's a death in the family, whether it's a breakdown of a relationship, whatever it is that's going on, the fracture that is experienced is mostly actually not a direct result always of the event. Quite often, the way we respond to these traumas is as a direct result of the fracture, that the inner disharmony, potentially dis-ease, some sort of dis-ease that is already within us. So I will do a slight case study for you in a moment to kind of explain and clarify what I mean by this. But I want to say this again. More often than not, the emotional, mental, physical upheaval we feel as a direct result of a event, some sort of a crisis or trauma event, what we experience within us is rarely a direct result of that actual timeline, of that actual event. More often than not, the way we respond to the event that's outside of us is a direct result of what's going on inside of us already. So I hope that is making a little bit of sense, and I will now back this up with an example and a case study. So the other thing that I want to also mention to you, sorry, I'm just having a look at my dates, and I just want my dates, wow, my notes, and I just want to make sure that I mention everything in a way that I wrote it so that it's easiest understood. Okay. So now that I've offered that to you, let me then talk to you and reaffirm that inner fracture or trauma, or some sort of a crisis happens in all the different aspects of ourselves, meaning in our emotional body, in our mental body, in our physical body, and also there's in our energy body or energy field. If there is a lot of density in certain areas, there is actually an energetic fracture. So some of you that know about chakras, which are energy portals within our body, our chakras can be out of harmony. They can be out of balance as a direct result of holding on to some denser energies or an energetic imprint that is blocking the free flow of the energy. Okay. So there's a thing called, and a lot of you will know this, there's a thing called the unconscious or shadow aspect of ourselves, okay? The unconscious brain is basically the part of our unconscious, it's the part of our brain that is kind of like a storage container. It's the part of our brain that holds, stores all the different events and timelines throughout our lives and has a direct connection to what is called the Akashic Records, which is the record of your soul's experience from all of its lifetimes and the soul's evolution. Therefore, it's the story of your soul's evolution, right? So for this lifetime, our experiences are stored in that unconscious brain. And because it's like a storage container, so by default, storage is something that happens and then we put it in there and then we put it away. It's not obviously seen and obviously accessed immediately. And when I say accessed immediately, it's not accessed immediately consciously, So it's like if you, like in your computer, for example, iCloud would be like your unconscious brain. It stores your information in the cloud, and you need to go and ask for it, to search for it if you're wanting something specific, but it's not immediately available to you in the moment, unless you have a conscious awareness of it. So okay, let me just tick that. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to say to you and make really clear is that it requires some effort to go and find the file or the memory that sits in that shadow unconscious. It's referred to as the shadow only because it's unseen from minute to minute. Yeah, so because it's in storage. Yeah, it's like it's a recording, a filing system. But here's the thing: just because it's in storage, it's in your unconscious, that doesn't mean that it doesn't hold exactly the energetic, the emotional, the mental, and the physical imprint as it did in the moment that it happened. So let me clarify this by giving you a case study or an example. And I will take this from my direct personal life. This year, 2020, has been quite extraordinary. As you know, I mean, you know, so many ways to describe 2020. In my reality, I have witnessed 5 deaths passing over. 3 funerals I've been to, 2 I've been to in the form of a broadcast because of the way things are at the moment. On top of that, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he's actually, this week is his first week of treatment. Here's what I want to say to you, referring back to that inner fracture and referring back to the way I respond to this is a direct result of what I already have inside of my body. Yeah? If the first thing that I want to say and acknowledge that everybody grieves and processes information in a different way. Again, the way this information, these events are processed entirely depend on what is already within you, what are the previous experiences of loss and death and value of life and the perspective of life, the perspective of what happens when the physical body dies. Is there a soul? Is there a heaven? Or is there a hell? What do you do with this event that is experienced as a death of a loved one? The version of me that's 10 years ago, for example, understood life to have a lot more attachments to the idea of family, had more attachment around how relationships are formed in this physical space. And these attachments, these belief systems, these values that I had were therefore a lot more codependent, meaning your existence or my family's existence in my world felt like it was paramount. And should I have had to face this year, but 10 years ago, on those 10 years ago timelines, I probably would have been distraught beyond belief. My emotional and mental body would not have been able to process the reality of death on this physical plane. I would have been well, knowing myself and what I was like 10 years ago, I would have been a lot more distraught. I would have potentially felt betrayed and abandoned. It would have triggered old abandonment wounds that I had and hadn't yet worked through from the time I was a child. I would have felt that they left me behind. I would have felt all sorts of different things potentially. My reality today has a very strong surrender and faith around consciousness that doesn't have a physical body. So those beautiful people that were in my life are still very much in my life, just not physically. So the transition from one form of expression into another today for me is that it's a transition as opposed to a betrayal and an abandonment of the physical expression. So this is my point. The 10 years ago version of me would have created a timeline, a reality that would have held a deeply wounded emotional charge. Okay, so energy is a particle charge. Yeah, it moves in a certain way. So on those timelines, my energy, my sense of what's going on in my world would have been really wounding. Today, so my reaction to the death of a loved one would have been a lot more grief stricken, if you will. It would have been a lot more, yeah, I just would have been a lot more wounded and would have required, like, wounded, like as in emotionally, mentally, physically incapable potentially to function in the world the way I can function today. So this is what I mean. The way we respond to the events outside of us entirely depends on what is already within us. And the version of me from 10 years ago, because I hadn't yet worked through, for example, those wounds that I already held within me around abandonment, around betrayal, and all those sorts of things, would have surfaced, would have been triggered as a result of a loss of a loved one. Yeah. 10 years down the track, the timelines, this present moment right now, I don't feel those wounds being activated because I've worked through it. So therefore, my personal response to what's going on in my world today is different. I can be still at peace. I can hold the energy of gratitude for having known them. I can have gratitude for the lessons I've learned in my life as a direct result of having them in my life. I still feel their influence and their presence from the other side as they now guide me and are present in my life, but in a different way. Yeah. So I can reconcile the death of a physical body from potentially a higher perspective, because those old childhood wounds are not being triggered anymore because they're healed. Yeah. So I hope that you are understanding this as I try and explain this idea of inner fracture. So when the emotional body is responding independently in that wounded, fractured way to the way the mind is responding, and the physical body, and blah blah blah, blah, that fracture it feels like a inner fracture, feels like and is a lot of energy charge, kind of, that it doesn't work as a team, that there isn't coherence, there isn't inner peace, ease, there is dis-ease that is created on the timeline, there is a lack of harmony within, and all of those sorts of things, because aspects of our past timelines are being triggered and unconsciously brought into the present moment from storage, from that shadow unconscious aspect of self. I have to apologize in advance. This video is going to be that little bit longer than usual. All right. So I hope that sort of helps you understand that any wounding on a timeline throughout your life leaves an imprint. So an event in your life, childhood, teenager, young adult, older person, whatever, it all leaves a four-dimensional charge on a linear timeline, because in this physical space, we have the space, physical space, and time continuum. It's like a linear quantum expression. It's not the only expression, but let's just stick to this physical realm. On this physical realm, in terms of this linear time, we experience things in all four aspects, in all four bodies. And as we experience that, we get like an imprint, like a snapshot in time. And then that snapshot and that energy charge of those moments gets filed away at the back of our brain in our unconscious storage, and is there and will respond and run each present moment as it's relevant until it's dealt with, until that energetic charge on the timeline is dealt with and neutralized. From a quantum perspective, this is called a timeline collapse. So a timeline collapse essentially doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that the charge, energetic charge, the emotions, the thoughts, all of that sort of stuff has been neutralized. It no longer has a sting, if you will. And so it becomes just a neutral memory, something that happened, something that you can now file away, that doesn't come back around again to test you or give you the opportunity to neutralize it, because essentially the lesson has been learned. Whole nother video. Okay, so I grab pen and paper, because now I'm going to tell you what you can do to work out what's going on in a moment for you when things happen. How you can help yourself with identifying those inner fractured parts of yourself. So here we go. Number one, when an event happens. So, and there's plenty of events to choose from these days. So, grab a pen and paper or grab your trusty phone. There are notes. There's usually a note section in the smartphones these days, and start your talking. Number one, what am I thinking? So you sit with the event or the timeline charge, basically. Close your eyes and you ask yourself, what am I thinking? And then you wait for the inner dialogue to emerge. You write down everything that comes up and then you ask yourself, why am I thinking this? And allow your conditioning, your past experience to come in from that storage space, from that shadow, and let it talk to you. Don't judge it. You're not there to say right or wrong, have a reaction. You're there to observe and to find out. Be your own inner detective. Number two, what am I feeling? Does it make me sad? Does it make me angry? Does it make me frustrated? Does it make me scared, anxious? On and on and on. It goes depending on what is going on and why. Why am I scared of whatever it is that's presenting itself? Yeah. 3, where is these feelings and these thoughts? Where is this presenting in my body? Does my throat tighten? Does my stomach churn? Have I got a really tense neck or shoulders? Is my back sore? Are my knees playing up? The soles of my feet, my legs? Where am I feeling this when I'm sitting in this energy? Yeah? And 4, getting used to understanding your energy and identifying your own quantum field. Where is the energy coming from? As in, is what I'm feeling, thinking, processing in my body, is it all mine? Or am I tuning into somebody else's energy or the collective energy at large? Learn to discern, to tell the difference between what's yours and what's not yours. And you are simply observing it or feeling having an experience of somebody else's reality. Yeah. Any situation, event, timeline, imprint, as I explained it before, can be understood if you break it down in this way from the 4 different aspects of yourself. Yeah. Once you understand this imprint or charge, whatever is going on the timeline, yeah, whether it's fear in terms of emotions, whether it's whatever mental inner dialogue is going on in your head of I'm not good enough, or I'm in danger, or they're going to hurt me, or whatever is going on in your mind as an inner dialogue. Once you understand what's going on inside of you, yeah, and then you have the opportunity to heal it, to dissolve it, and neutralize it. Yeah, like I was saying before, and then you come back into alignment so that the emotional body is not screaming over here going, they're gonna get me, and your mind is not going, they're such bastards, they don't value humanity and blah, 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 blah. And then your back is killing you and you can't even get off the couch because your body's trying to tell you that you are carrying the weight of the world on your back, yeah, and so on and so forth. When you neutralize all of that, then you come back into alignment, yeah. And so that then dissolves the inner fracture And these aspects of self can work together again in harmony, in balance. You can raise your vibration, and you have put an aspect of your inner storage, of your unconscious or shadow self, at peace or to peace. Yeah. This, of course, goes a long way to reaching that point of self-mastery, the 0 point. And once you're at 0 point, of course, where everything just is, this is the point of creation. That's when you truly understand how to create your world in a different way. So I know this is quite complex. I try to explain it the best way I can in a short period of time that I have. Of course, if you're interested to find out more, please go to my website. And if you're needing help with understanding and with working with your inner fractured and wounded parts of yourself, then of course mentoring can help. So just let me know, and we can explore the idea of working together. Okay, I love you so much. Bye. Please take care of yourself and each other. Okay.